Cool, let's do a bit more with Mongo. Firstly, if I want to connect via the shell, what do I have to do? What couple of steps do I have to take? Can anyone remember from this morning, or is it all gone out of your heads again? We're saving it for later when we actually need to work with databases. Sudo MongoD, I like that. Very good. So let's do sudo MongoD. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. That will ask me for my laptop password. Enter that. All good. The last bit says waiting for connections on port 27017. That's what we expected. That's a little command that works on Linux. I do not know whether it works on Windows. It probably won't. It might. Huh? Wow, that was quick. It might work on Mac. You might have those tools by default, but it definitely works on Linux, which is probably not many of the users watching, but hey, there it is. So what happens? So if an instance of Mongo is running, that will display something. If an instance of Mongo is not running, then that will display nothing. Yeah, so it's just a way to check if you're in VS Code or a different terminal, whether Mongo background process, whether a Mongo server is already running. Yeah, that's all it's for. So let me actually run Mongo again. All looks good. So now I've got a server running. What is my next step? So the server's just sitting there, it's not doing anything at the moment. How do I connect to that server? Someone say it?
No, I just made
No? Oh. So I type the command Mongo, and that will start my CLI and connect to my local database versions. However, what about if I want to try and connect to the cloud, to Mongo in the cloud? Well, that's where that connection string from Atlas comes in handy, and I can copy that, and I can paste that in my terminal. And was there a bit that said password? I feel like I'm missing a password here. Anyway, let's see if it asks for a password. Okay, that's cool. Hey, so we are now successfully connected to the cloud database. How do I know that? How could I check what databases I've connected to? So I've connected to a cluster, but what databases are inside? What's the command to? Show DBS. Nice. So what have we got there? Admin local as usual. The test database has been deleted. That makes sense. And we've got this sample data. Sample Airbnb data. Mflix. That must be very similar to Codeflix, I imagine. So maybe we could use that one. How could I use the Mflix data? Yeah, exactly. So use, I think it's going to have to be sample. I think that's the way they've named their database. So sample underscore Mflix. Switch to the database sample Mflix, which now means I can alias it just using db for any further commands. How do I see what collections are inside the sample Mflix folder? Not folder, database. Yep, show collections, same thing. Cool, so we've got comments, movies, sessions, theatres, and users. Nice. If that's a little bit hard to visualize, I'm going to just jump over now into Compass, which is a more visual tool, just to see what sort of data this contains. Because it's a bit hard to do in the command line just with this sort of black and white data. We could, of course, just return the records. Maybe let's do that briefly. I think in the shell, there's automatic pagination. Otherwise, it would just, if they've got a database of like 1,000 movies, could take quite a while for the shell to render that all. So I think it will just show the first 20 movies. For example, let's have a look at that now. So we can do db dot, and then I can do the name of my collection, which in this case is going to be movies. And then how do I read the data? What's my, so CRUD operations, we've got create, read, update, delete. How do I just read some data from that database? What's the method? Begins with F. Find, yeah, nice. So if I want all of the records, just put an empty object in, hit enter. That's pretty unreadable again. How do I make it a bit more readable? Pretty, yeah, nice. And then, whoa, yeah, okay, so we can see, where's the, so it would start with the underscore ID, which is the unique key that Mongo sets for us. We see we've got a plot, we've got some genres, runtime, cast, all this sort of data, yeah? So let's jump over into the visual tool and view that a little bit more. What's the visual tool called, or the standard GUI? Compass, yeah, nice. So I'm going to jump back over into Compass, which is this one here. Can I zoom this easy? No, so I'm just going to have to sort of zoom it for you, which is a bit annoying. I'm in the different collection at the moment. So I'm in sample Airbnb, but I can literally just go to the left hand side and click mflix, click the movies, and that will load up the movies data instead. So we see we've got the same sort of thing, plot, genres, blah blah blah. So that's probably an easier way to visualize what an existing database contains, yeah? I mean, if you love black and white and you see in monochrome, maybe Cam loves it like this. I don't know, Cam, do you prefer just like shell things?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for some people might prefer that, just the retro style. Other people like a GUI just to visualize their data, and then they can sort of see some nested data. What does that contain? All that sort of stuff. All right. So there's a little button here to insert a document. So that would be what part of CRUD? What part of the CRUD operations? Say again? Not really update. It could be update if you added some additional, what do they call them in Mongo? Let's just call them methods again. I forget what the Mongo name for them, but if you added an additional set method in there, that could be update. But just as a basic insert command, imagine that record doesn't exist yet. We're adding a brand new movie. So C stands for Create, yeah. So insert is the create in this instance, yeah? Insert a document, we can create a brand new document, a brand new entry. So it's already set this unique identifier for us, and then we've just got to input some key value pairs. So over here we can select what type of data we're expecting, array, boolean, etc. Let's say we want to use a number. What could we use? So we've got a few options for numbers. We've got double. What does double mean? Decimal numbers, floats, doubles. So that's the programming language speak for decimals. Yeah, doubles are decimals. Ints are integers, so they're just the whole numbers. So int 32 will take up a smaller space than int 64. Yeah, so if you need huge numbers, you're probably going to want int 64. Otherwise, int 32 should be enough. What's that? Bison. Yeah. So that's a bison regular expression. Wow, I've never used one of those, but that would be fun one day to use, I'm sure. And of course, if you just want to say that we haven't got the data for this record rather than it's missing, you could set it to null, yeah, similar to JavaScript. Okay, yeah, let's use a number then. So I'm just going to do an integer. Insert not permitted while document contain errors. Alright, well I haven't finished yet, have I? Let me... Okay, so it's just saying please put a number in there. I think that's what it's complaining about. Let's create a year. So let's say there was a movie released in 2010. It's not complaining anymore. I guess we could call that release date. Have I spelled release wrong? Probably. Yeah. Release. There we go. Cool. And then if we wanted additional... Oh, how has it gone? Did I click the cross? I think I clicked the cross, right? Rather than... Man, this is why sometimes the terminal's better. It's just clearer. So I'll put year here now because it's quicker. And then hit enter. Cool. And then we can enter something else if we wanted, right? I don't know. Any movies you know released in 2010? That movie, who knows, wasn't it? Yeah.
Inception.
Inception?
Yes.
I'll take your word for it. Damn, got wrong data now. Anyway, once you're done, you can just click insert. So that was stored as a string. We wanted to store it as an int32. It now accepts it. Inception can be a string, and then this one we don't need.
It was 2010.
Was it? What a good, educated guess. Okay, now we can't necessarily see that that's in our database yet because we've got all these other entries, but how would we read from our database, right? The second letter in our CRUD acronym, create and then read. So via the GUI thing, we can just put an object and maybe let's search for year 2010 and see what we find. I'm hoping they didn't have a year, or they did have a year property as well, so we're not going to get just that one. Okay, so we could do year 2010, comma, title. This is when I hope I've spelt inception right. Inception. Oh wow. So we've got the proper entry and then we've got our really rubbish entry down there. So inception was already in the database and we already have a lot more information on it. Apparently it's an action mystery sci-fi. That's what it's classed as, genre-wise. Yeah. All good. How about... I'm not sure I know how to update it via the GUI. Is there an obvious way to do it? Export to language. This is quite a cool feature of Compass. Say you've written some reasonably complicated query and you've got like year this and that, and only if the year is greater than... Oh, that's quite a good one to do. So if I do this, dollar less than, and then colon, I think it's like that. Is that right? Let me double check. Syntax of Mongo, to be honest, always confuses me a little bit because it's like a JavaScript object, but it's not quite the same. So a big key value. There it is. So yeah, inside of the object must be like that. Cool. So we got year, and then that is the object. There we go. So that will return all movies that have a year number less than 2010 and also contain the title Inception. So we're probably not going to get any results. That's the idea. Let's click find. And we get no results. If we put something like LTE, which will stands for less than or equal to, and hit search, we see that we've got our results back again. So Mongo can add lots of extra operators in here, so things to clarify or make the searches more specific just by putting a $ in front and then their name or their code for this operator. So there are a huge number of them, but we've just covered a few there. We've got less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and greater than, right? So you can see we've got some geo queries there. If a certain geolocation is within a radius of another point, then that would return those data points. So really good if you're, I guess, searching for restaurants nearby and you've got their latitude and longitude and you've got your current location. Yeah, that would be a good use of returning some restaurants from the database that were near you. Yeah. So anyway, the feature that I wanted to show, once you've got your query sorted and you tested it and it returns what you want it to return, you can then come over to the right hand side and click the 3 dots and export to language, and that will bring up a box and you can choose what language you want the query to be written in. So we want it to be written in Node, and it will just make sure that, I expected to give you more on that, to be honest, but it will just make sure that you've written the query in a correct format, and you can directly copy and paste that into your application with the suitable method. So we're going to take that query in now and we'll do the same thing in the shell, and this will mean we have to learn the actual Mongo commands rather than just clicking that box at the top to search. So where's my terminal gone? This one. Let's just clear that away. Oh, and apparently I have to type it for more to get more results. Yeah, weird one. Next 20 results. Can I clear it? No. I guess the only way I could clear it... No, I'm not going to disconnect. That's fine. So, firstly we created something. The full command to create something would be db.movies, so the database, and then the movies collection. And then we have a couple of methods. We have insert1, if we wanted to insert just one particular movie. So this time let's get the year wrong. So let's insert a document with a year of 2009, and also and then also a title with, let's do the same title for now because we're going to delete some of these later. Whoops. Cool, so we need to make sure that's an object, and we need to make sure that we close the method. Cool, and if you get acknowledged true back, that means that it has been successfully inserted into the database. So that was just to insert one document at a time. If you want to insert many documents, anyone guess what the method's called? Not insert one, but what'd you say? Multiple, good guess. Many. Yeah, insert many. So this is the naming syntax for most of the CRUD operations. We've got insert one, insert many, delete one, delete many, update one, update many, and find is just find. Yeah, it's not find and find many, it just finds all the matching ones based on your query. Cool, so that would insert multiple things, and you stick the multiple things inside of an array. So you can have multiple objects in here and insert multiple things, right? I'm not going to do that one, I'm just going to leave the insert one. Good, so that essentially covers how you would create documents from the command line. You would use db.collectionName.insert1 or .insertMany, and then pass in your actual data. So you might have some JSON data stored somewhere else, and you can even insert CSV files, but you just need to do a few extra steps for that. Cool. So, also we want to read. So, I said we could just copy and paste our query from before. And there it is, right? There's our query. However, It's not just going to work if we copy and paste the actual query. We need to put it inside something. So can anyone, well, I think we already know, right? What is the method to read from the database? Nope. It was find. Oh, where's my connection string gone? It was find. It definitely was find. Sorry, I thought I still had that connection string. Let's get it again. So I type Mongo, then my connection string. What's wrong now? Missing semicolon before. Oh, I think I typed Mongo. There we go. That's better. Nope, still wrong. Missing semicolon. Oh, am I still connected? Maybe I didn't drop out. No. Okay, sorry, I was still connected. Cool, and I'm still in the movies. So if you want to see what current database you're in ever, just type DB and it will show you what current one you're in. So I'm currently in Mflix. Yeah, so I can do db.find and then I can, I haven't got the query to paste anymore, but what you could have done, too many windows. Oh, it's encompassing. Click the three dots, remember, export to language, grab your query. Could be a very long, complicated one, so this can be worth it sometimes. And then paste that inside of your find there. And we should get the same results, right? Those two movies that we got from earlier. Syntax error. What did I do wrong? It looks like I've closed it in the wrong place somehow. db.find is not a function. Very good point. db.what? Sample underscore mflix. Yeah, that was the name of our collection. Okay. And then we've got just, it seems, our one result, which is intriguing. Is that because I've mistyped that? Why did it find anything? We're not getting any results, are we? db.sample underscore mflix dot find. We've got our year, which has greater than or equal to 2010, and the title being Inception. Not getting any results. That's odd. Any suggestions? I'm just not getting any results at all, am I? So hold on, so DB is called sample mflix, so that means the collection is called movies. So that's what went wrong, right? We're searching a collection that didn't exist. if I go back to my original query, it's not sample mflix, it's db.movies, and then we get the correct objects. We get our second one, which is the one that we entered, 2010, and we get their one. Let's make it pretty as always. So we've got our one down the bottom, and then we've got their entry up the top, which is pretty long. Have we got any nested data that you can see anywhere? I can see one. What nested data could we search for?
For a language, English, Japanese, French.
Where's that? I can't see language.
Sorry, because there is something.
Countries. I can't see language. Does anyone see language? Oh, language. That's not nested. It's not a nested object. It's just an array. Yep. Tomatoes, yeah? Whatever you want to say. That's nested data. So that's a property, or that's a key, and then we've got an object inside of it. How do we access nested object values in JavaScript? Dot. So we can do exactly the same here. So I'm going to search for rotten tomatoes, and that looks like some sort of worst score or something. I don't know what it is, but we're going to search for a value of that greater than 40, yeah? And it should return just that value there, or just the matching record for that. In fact, before I do that, let's just clear and oh, please don't do this. Okay, I can't do anything on my terminal at the moment, so let's create a new one. Okay. Cool. Yeah, db.movies, wasn't it? .find, and this time we're looking for the key of tomatoes dot rotten, yeah? However, because we're using the dot syntax here, we need to make sure that we pass it in as a string, and then we can do colon, another object, because we're going to use an operator, and we're going to use the greater than operator, which has a value of 40. Then if I also want it to have the title of Inception, then I need to put that in there. I need to close the whole object, and I think we're good. Yep, so let's make it pretty again. I always forget that one. And we've still got the correct database entry being returned, but this time we haven't got our entry that we added because, of course, that one had no tomatoes data. So we've just got the one entry this time. I think you can use a dot count to see how many entries we've got. No, dot count is not a function. Yeah, So that therefore we only returned one record when we looked for the tomatoes rotten data. However, if we just looked for the year, which is what we did before, yeah, that will work. Then we see we have 3, yeah, because we've got 3 entries now called inception. All right. How would I delete the one with the incorrect year?
Remove db.move is.
Nope, it's dbs.delete. And we can either use many or one. It's not going to make a difference here. And we want to delete one that matches the following criteria. So with a year of 2009 and a title of inception. Inception as a string. Close the object, close that off. Did I spell it wrong? Oh, inception, yeah. Missing colon after the property. Am I? Cool, so we've deleted one. Fantastic. So we had 3 entries and we've managed to delete one that had the incorrect year. It had a year of 2009 as opposed to 2010. So we've successfully deleted that from our database. If we then ran our query again, our find query, and counted how many, we should have 2, and we do, yeah? So, yeah, not too much more, really. Update's probably the trickiest one. So, we first want to query the ones that we want to match. So we can still just go with that. However, then once we've got our match, we have to put a comma and we create a new object. And inside of that, we use the set operator to set the new data. So set with a colon, sorry, not colon, dollar. And what are we setting? Well, this time, let's change the year again. And this time we'll set the year to be 2012. Set year, boom. I haven't closed the final object, so we've got key value. I think we still need to do that, as far as I'm aware. And hopefully that's a valid query. Let's see. Looks good. Oh no, bad value. Codename bad value. Unsupported projection option. Year 2012.0. It's like it tried to give it a double. Ah, yeah, of course. I need to change find to update. Thank you. I didn't realize I hadn't changed that yet. So let's do update many. So we're going to update all of the records to all the matching records to the different year. Cool. Matched to, modified to. So now, if I go back into the GUI, because I think it's probably the easiest place to see it. So I'll go back into Compass. If I now just search for title inception, ignoring the year, we should get how many results, firstly? 2. We're going to get 2 results. And what year are they going to have? 2010 or 2012 this time? Yeah, because we've updated them. Let me just run that. And then I'll zoom in again for you. So we've found 2 records, but if I zoom in, the year is 2012. So we haven't changed any of the other data but we've just updated that year key and value. So how do we do that? We used update many. If we'd used update one, it would have just updated the first record that it come across, but I wasn't quite sure what one that was going to be, so therefore I just decided to update all of them. Yeah, and then we passed in firstly the thing that we want to match, then just separate it with a comma, pass in this set operator, and pass in what we want to change. And they are your 4 basic CRUD operations, right? Create, insert one, insert many, read, find method, update, it's going to be update one, update many, and then you delete, delete one, and delete many. So they're your most basic methods and a good place to start with your database operations. You probably thought that was pretty awkward and long-winded to do it that way, via the terminal or even via the GUI. So in practice we're not going to do that very often at all. We'd maybe do that just to check the odd thing, but in practice you're going to develop an application, right, that manages your database. So you'd still use these queries, you'd still have db.movies.updateMany, but that would just be on your back end, right? When someone made a request to your delete many route on your Express server, then it would run a query and delete the necessary bits out of your database. So when you've written these queries once, they're just part of your program and you never touch them again, essentially, yeah? So it's a bit of a faff to set up, but once you've done it, then it shouldn't be too difficult. And like anything, the practice will help you. Any questions? So tomorrow we'll look at how to put it into a Node application, and we'll set up some express routes that handle our CRUD operations and see that it still works, test that it still works. Yeah? Cool. If you're having trouble installing, anytime you get some weird error messages, let me know if you haven't already got Mongo installed. If not, play around with some of those commands and see how it changes your database. Thank you.
Awesome.
You alright, Max? Yeah? Great.